Hi everyone, welcome. Ryan here from the London Craftsman channel. How are you keeping? Today's video is all about how we cut up sheet material. Going to be going over the tools that we use and a little bit of information on how we do so. So if that floats your boat, you want to find out more, stay tuned, watch to the end. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so before we start, we use a cutting list like so. Okay, it's a bog standard cutting list, nothing special. I print these out myself, just made this up myself. You've got the name of the component, you've got the amounts, length, width, thickness, edging length and edging width, and what material. At the top, I just write the customer's name, when I actually did the cutting list, and what the job is. So this job that we're doing today is mainly MDF. We've got a birch ply ledge. I'll put a picture up of what we're doing, computerized drawing. We've got a birch ply ledge, which is like the top of the lower cabinet, and the desk on the right hand side of that picture. There's a desk within the cabinet. That's a pull-out desk. That's going to be birch also. 2 bits of birch, but the rest are just standard MDF. Not going for anything special. As you probably know if you've been watching my videos, I generally don't use anything other than standard MDF because we get really good finishes with our airless sprayer. We probably would if we were going for a vanity unit in a bathroom, or something that needs to have moisture resistance to it. But with what we're doing here, no, we just use standard MDF, keep the costs down, and we can still get a very good finish. So what I'm going to be showing you today is just the tools that we use and run through how we go about cutting a sheet. If you are struggling to work out where your components go and you can't really work it out from your cutting list, how many pieces or how to get that layout right to optimize what pieces go where, go to a website or an app. I think it's on the computer, called Max Cut. It's a fantastic bit of software. It's free, but you can also pay for the yearly business edition, which gives you extras. I don't have that, but yeah, it's a really great bit of software, nice and easy to use, and it will work out where all your pieces go. So like I said, if you're struggling, use that first, type in all the dimensions into that piece of software, and it will tell you how to cut up your pieces. So when we start cutting up, what we generally do is we go for the biggest pieces first, and that's what I learned when I was younger and I was an apprentice. You don't want to start with the smallest pieces, mainly because if you are cutting up all the smallest pieces first and you're left with like bigger pieces, then your offcuts aren't going to be big enough for the big pieces. So if you've got an 8x4 sheet, just work out all your biggest sizes first. We are going for all the wider components. So the lower cabinet is 500 deep. This is all the lower cabinet. This is all the upper cabinet, which is 300 deep. Sean is cutting this up at the moment. Say hello, Sean.
Hello, everyone.
And we're going 500 deep on the bottom. Okay, so we're going for that first, okay? So we're getting the wider components first. It's just under half a sheet, okay? 500 mil. Half a sheet is 610-ish, something like that. So we're going for the biggest width and we're going for the biggest height. So Sean started cutting all of these tops and bottoms 10 at 770 by 500. Then he might work his way down to the 623s. As you can see here, we've got a bit of 25 mil MDF. We're not going to touch that. He's got 18 mil on the bench. So just make sure that we go through all the 18s first, okay? And well, saying that, as you can see, I put a square around all the 25 mils and a circle around the 6, nothing around the 18. I've been doing that for years. So when I look at the cutting list, I can just look down and I just don't cut up the wrong components in the wrong thickness materials, okay? So you go for the biggest pieces first, then your offcuts can then generally do all the smaller components, okay? So that's the way to do it. Next thing that Sean does is he does all the rips mainly first. You can do it both ways. Sean does a lot of the cutting here, and sometimes we do it together. But mainly he would cut up one sheet. Once he's cut that up, he'll then have all the components and he'll chop them up. That's the way he likes to do it. Another way you can do it is if you want to do all your rips again of the full length of your sheet, you can stack them up and do all your rips of the whole entire job, and then start chopping them up into length. But you need to know what pieces you have. You need to then mark out what's what. I think the reason Sean does one sheet at a time is because then he can just tick it off his cutting list. It just keeps it manageable. And yeah, it's a bit more simple. Yeah, we just think it's a little bit more manageable doing one sheet at a time. You rip it up, you slice them up, put them to one side, tick it off the list, move on. Okay. It might be a little bit different if you've got offcuts off of that sheet. So if you go on max cut and you realise you've got a little bit of a corner left, you might have a little bit of a corner. That's where max cut comes in handy, because if you are cutting one sheet at a time, you may have to cut it in a certain way. Okay, so max cut might be the way for you to go if you've got a complicated cutting list, or it's more than a few sheets. If it's just the sheets or 2 sheets, then you probably don't need it. You can work it out on a bit of paper. So he's got parallel guides here. We've been using these for about, how long, Sean? 2 years? 3 years? 2 years. About that, isn't it? Yeah, we got 2 sets of these. Generally only use one at a time, and they can extend to do the whole sheet, 12, 20. And these are designed in a way where you can make them as big as you can, as you want. But because we've got 2 sets, we can rip up a sheet, you know, an oversized 5-foot sheet, for example, or 6 foot. We don't really buy those sheets in. But if you have melamine, I know they come in huge sheets. So you can extend these. And they're really, really good. They need calibrating first. And there is a video, there's 5 videos on these parallel guides. So if you want to see these in use and how to set them up, how to calibrate them, etc., there's videos. I do have a whole watch list on parallel guides, so check out the BANGGOOD parallel guides if you're stuck. But these do need calibrating first with the rods that go through these little arms, okay? Once you've done that, generally we don't do it over and over, because we do take them off the actual rail when we're not using it. It's so big, we like to tuck this away so it doesn't get damaged, but we don't want to keep the arms on it. So every now and then we put them on, and you know, we find that they could be a little bit out, 1/2 mil here and there. So we don't get those calibrating rods out again. What we generally do is just release these screws. Sean will take a measurement from the edge of the board to the size, to what he needs. And then he might do a tiny little test cut or see how the rubber hits that line. And if it needs calibrating, he'll just release these 2 screws on this part of the parallel guide, these 2. Okay. And then he could just make sure that his stopper is in the right position according to the ruler measurements. So you can adjust this and you can adjust this to calibrate it, but you just need to do it sort of freestyle with a line if you don't want to get the rods out, if you get what I mean. But there is a video for how to calibrate, but sometimes it's a little bit long. That's what I'm trying to say, is getting those rods out and doing that every time. It's easy enough just to get a mark, test cut, or at least see where your rubber hits and adjust those accordingly. It's not hard. So these work with the bigger tracks, small tracks, any tracks. We've got Makita. I'm not too sure what they work with, to be honest. You better have a look on the BANGGOOD website, but they are really, really good. It's just put it on, put the stoppers down up against, and that is it. One thing Sean does like to do as well, because he knows this distance of the rail, this width, which is 185, before he does that cut, this is 185, he'll then get a tape measure just before he cuts, just to make sure. It just takes a second, and just to make sure he's got the correct remaining distance left over. So he'll put that on, and just before he cuts, just a quick check, okay, just to make sure. There's no harm in just spending another 5-10 seconds just to double check before you go for the cut. So like I said before, he might do a sheet at a time, he might not, but when it comes to chopping those long rips up, he does it 2 ways. Sean's very quick at cutting up. He's really, really good at it, and as you can see here, this is what he's done in the past 3 hours. How many sheets are there? 4, 5? 4 or 5 sheets in 3 hours or something. To be honest, there is quite a few components. There's about 30 or so there. But he's very good at keeping them all square and making sure that the cross cuts, when he's cutting those rips to length, they're square, because, they've got to be square, and the tolerances are very small when you're cutting across the wide area, aren't they? So when you're cutting up and you stack them up to do all your sanding and your marking, you don't want them to be mismatched. And you want them to be as a whole nice square pack once they're stacked. Because obviously once we do that, we then get all our components, stack them up and do our sanding technique, okay? So if you want to watch a video on how we get all those edges up nice on standard MDF, not expensive MDF, watch that video up there. It's a really, really quick method. And I do have a few other methods also with the iron-on edger, the Veritex AG98F. But anyway, I'm going off topic here. Sean can do it two ways. He attaches a track to this track saw square. This is adjustable, by the way, and it's quite easy to calibrate it also. So if you do buy one of these, there'll be links in the video, by the way. It's very, very simple just to release these two and get it absolutely spot on. You're going to have to do one or two test cuts to make sure, and use a square like this, roofing square, just to draw a line on and, you know, to get it right. But he will either use this, put the track up against it. The track will be on it like so, the 1.5, and he will do his cross cuts. He sometimes just likes to do it freestyle, so he'll then, once he's got his rip, he'll do a square cut using the roofing square, draw that line on, and then Sean sometimes just likes to freestyle it. I know this is in the way, but then he'll just freestyle, and then from that line he'll mark back, draw another line with his roofing square, freestyle again. But you can't go wrong because he's using a nice, accurate roofing square to do those cuts. What is it, 50-50? Do you have any reasons why you do freestyle?
No, if you're ready, just check the square, the roofing square.
Okay, because you like to draw a line on there anyway, sometimes?
Yeah.
To see that as you're cutting. I know sometimes you're probably saying, all your viewers at home, well, it defeats the object of the speed and the accuracy. So I've got the microphone here. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's nice just to have that line on there. Mark it on. You need to mark the distance anyway, don't you? So why not? So for example, if you're cutting that rip to 1200, then why you're going to have to take your tape measure down, mark it. Why not just put a square line with the roofing square? Yeah. And there's no harm. You can do it two ways: the track saw square with the track, or just the track on its own. So I don't know. It's preference. If you do multiple over and over, let's put this microphone back on. If you're doing multiple over and over, then this. If you're doing one or two, I don't know. It's up to you, but this is a nice investment. I don't think it's more than £90 or something like that. It's a really, really well made thing. Plus, it will do your angles also. So yeah, so it's just a mixture. Sean likes to draw the lines on just to see if he's, you know, sometimes you doubt yourself whether when you've got your track on there, is it actually square? Has it moved on me? So whereas if he's drawn that on anyway, you put it up against that line, at least he knows he's cut 100% true as he's cutting through that piece. Anything else to mention? Right, so before I finish the video, these are the extension bars. When you buy a set of these parallel guides, I think they come with 8 pieces, 4 for each arm, and they just slot into each other. Okay, you've got the groove there, and they just slot into each other like so, and you just nip up the little Allen key bolts at the back. So they are the extension bars. If you get more than 2 kits, they're so cheap anyway. If you do need to extend them, why not just buy 2 of the same kits rather than spare extension bars? Because I think they're around the £100 mark, maybe even less. These are the bars that you need to use to calibrate, and I believe that you're going to need another set of arms that are in the drawer. It comes with 2 of these arms, doesn't it? Yeah. Because you extend them like this, then you get another arm. These arms have got the holes in, and they slide through, don't they? Yeah. Something like that. I can't remember, but they are the calibrating rods, which we don't use. Like I said, you can calibrate it just by doing it freestyle. One more thing is the saw that we use is just this Makita saw. It's old, it's been used and abused, it still does the job. Okay, so the saw's turned off. Is it a 48 tooth? I believe we're using a 48 tooth blade. It's 165mm in diameter, and that's what we use for cutting up, to be honest, everything. But it's it's not battery power, it's a Makita. The model number is SP6000. Yeah, and that's what we use. They work perfectly on both the tracks, the smaller version and the longer version. We also had a spare one of these tracks. We've cut that in half, so if we're doing even smaller rips, I think we've got 700. Yes. Yeah, so we've got 700, 1.5 and a 3 meter, and that does everything that we need. Yeah, I think I've gone over everything. The same applies to any material that we cut, really, whether it's birch ply, oak veneer, etc., etc. If you are cutting anything a bit more fragile than MDF, just take your time, go a little bit slower on it. Make sure you've got a nice new blade if you can, if you're cutting across the grain especially. And that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments bar. We are at 30, what are we at? 33 or 34? Yeah, I had to check my board. We're at 33,500 subscribers. Hasn't been updated or cleaned. So if you like the channel, you think we're giving good information, remember we're not getting paid for doing this. It's our time. We've still got to do work, etc., etc. And you like what we do, please subscribe, like, and all the usual. Hit the bell notification so that way, if you are subscribed, you get a notification to when my video is coming out. Generally every Sunday at 9 o'clock. Okay, so don't forget that. Next Sunday, get your cup of tea ready for 9 o'clock. Sit down and enjoy our videos. So other than that, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Take it easy. Ciao for now.